Hey yo, welcome to our channel today. I vividly remember the moment my daughter let out her first cry, her face all scrunched up and crying vigorously. I couldn't help but shed tears. She was so precious. I finally understood the true meaning of this word. That's why I couldn't believe it, the fact that I wouldn't be able to see my daughter for the next 20 years. My name is Sarah Abby. I'm a 48-year-old working for a major consulting company. As I was typing on my computer at my desk, one of my subordinates hurriedly approached me. "Sorry, Director Abby, I made a mistake with the documents I gave you yesterday." I responded with a smile. "That's all right. I've already made the corrections. Just be more careful next time." "Thank you." As my subordinate bowed and left, my boss rushed over, making loud footsteps with a worried expression. "Miss Abby, it's fine. Whenever you have some free time, could you contact the facility regarding tomorrow's hearing?" "Yes, I'll contact them right away." "Oh, you're always reliable, Miss Abby," my boss said with a big grin. "It's been 20 years already. When you were gone, I didn't know what would happen. But I'm really glad you came back," my boss added. At those words, a momentary pain ran through my chest, but I quickly put on a fake smile. "Thank you." Once I confirmed that my boss had left, I quietly took out a photo from my desk. In the picture, there was a 2-year-old girl, my daughter. However, it had been 20 years since I last saw her. After graduating from college, I joined this company and was recognized for my diligence and accuracy in work. By my 3rd year with the company, I was even considered a candidate for a managerial position. However, I had a dilemma. My boyfriend, whom I had been dating since my university days, proposed to me and urged me to have a child soon. I loved my work, so even after giving birth, I intended to continue working and didn't want to give up on my career advancement. During that era, it was extremely rare for women to climb the corporate ladder. So I worked desperately hard to match my male colleagues who joined the company at the same time as me. My husband understood and promised to be fully involved in parenting. At the age of 26, I gave birth to my daughter, Mary. I love my daughter dearly, but the early days of childcare were filled with failures and troubles. I was physically and mentally exhausted. My husband helped take care of our daughter, but it was only as an assistant to me. He never took the initiative or learned anything on his own. Even after my maternity leave ended, my husband's attitude remained unchanged. I was overwhelmed by the pressure of facing my baby's life alone and the demanding job. Before I knew it, I had forgotten how to laugh. My doctor told me that I was with postpartum depression. Being unable to connect with my daughter and with the deteriorating relationship between my husband and me, we eventually decided to get a divorce after discussions involving both parents. I felt like a failure as a mother. Losing confidence, I voluntarily gave custody of our daughter to my husband. My daughter would be raised by my mother-in-law, who had tears in her eyes as she said to me, "We will take care of Mary with full responsibility. So, rest assured and take a break." I had received multiple worried messages from my mother-in-law, but I didn't even have the capacity to reply or ask for help. "Please, mother-in-law." Tears welled up as I felt my own helplessness. After receiving treatment at the hospital, I eventually returned to work and managed to fulfill my parental duties by paying child support every month with great difficulty. Mary is now 22 years old. Due to the guilt of not being able to be a normal mother, I haven't been able to see my daughter since the divorce. There has been no mention of visitation from my ex-husband. I'm home. After finishing working overtime, I returned to a dark house. While eating a hastily made dinner, I opened my computer and checked tomorrow's work. Tomorrow, I have a visit scheduled to a nursing home. Our company mainly does consulting for welfare facilities, and this time we received a consulting request from a nursing home for management. I will be conducting interviews for that purpose. Working on Saturday, I let out a sigh, but there is no helping it. The only thing I can do for my daughter is to earn money and provide for her. The next day was sunny and clear. As I walked, feeling the pleasant spring breeze, I could see a facility surrounded by lush greenery. After getting permission from the staff, I started visiting the residents' rooms and conducting interviews about their hopes, expectations, and complaints regarding the facility. And then I opened the door to the last room. "Hello, I'm Sarah." As my eyes met with the resident, I lost my words. It had been 20 years since we last saw each other, but there was no mistaking it. Standing there was my ex-mother-in-law. "Oh, nice to meet you. Who might you be?" According to the staff, it seems that my mother-in-law has some sort of dementia and doesn't remember me. Although there are times when she recalls the past, there haven't been any signs of it in the past few years. I felt relieved that my true identity hadn't been exposed. My heart winced at the sight of my aging mother-in-law. Suddenly, my mother-in-law started talking out of the blue. "You know, I haven't seen my grandchild for a long time." Could she be referring to Mary? After the divorce, it was said that my mother-in-law would be raising her. So I thought they had a good relationship. "Is your grandchild too busy?" "Yes, that's right. She promised to come today." My mother-in-law let out a sad sigh. At that moment, the door to the room swung open, and the cheerful voice filled the air. "Hey, Grandma. Good morning." With chestnut-colored natural hair and round dark brown eyes, even after the passage of time, there was a hint of familiarity, and I instantly knew who she was. It was Mary. Mary had light makeup on. Within her mature atmosphere, I still felt a touch of innocence. "Mary, you've grown so much. Has it been 20 years? "What? I came just last week, don't forget." "Oh, really? Was it last week?" Mary chuckled awkwardly at her evasive mother-in-law and suddenly noticed my presence, causing her to panic. "I'm sorry. You were working, right?" Mary said quickly, heading towards the door with her belongings, her back turned to me. "Wait." I couldn't help but blurt out. As Mary widened her eyes in surprise, I quickly spoke up. I wanted to gather information from your family members as well. It was something we had planned from the beginning." We sat on a bench in the facility's yard under the blue sky. When I asked Mary the same questions as the other residents, she said the following: "If I were to express my wishes for the facility, well, my grandma always says she's bored. So how about a field trip together, like watching movies or going to the theater?" The theater? I hadn't heard that suggestion before. Curiously, I asked Mary why she thought of the theater, and she responded somewhat embarrassed. "I actually attended an acting school recommended by one of the residents of the facility to experience the joy of the play." Come to think of it, there was only one time after our divorce when Mary's father had contacted me. Mary's father asked if I could help with her tuition fees. He said she wanted to attend a specialized school related to the entertainment industry, which would cost more than a regular school. "Really? What kind of school was it?" I casually asked, trying not to raise suspicion. Mary smiled shyly and answered, "The world of acting is tough and challenging. Everyone except yourself is a rival, so there can be unpleasant vibes among the students. No matter how hard you work, there's no guarantee of success." Mary looked down at her feet as she spoke. Looking back, Mary had always loved acting. Since she started speaking, she would immerse herself in pretending to be characters from educational TV shows or play pretend with dual roles. There are many videos of that at home. Each one is a cherished memory. But somehow, I worked hard and managed to graduate from the school 2 years ago. I finally got a role this year, and my first stage performance is in 3 months. Wow, that's amazing. You've made your dream come true. I felt proud. However, Mary had a gloomy expression. "Well, I've only just started at the starting line. Actually, even in the roles I've been given, I haven't been able to deliver satisfactory performances, and I'm constantly being yelled at. If things continue like this, I'll have to give up the roles to my classmates. It's a dog-eat-dog world." Mary weakly smiled as she looked at her feet, and my heart tightened. "What kind of role is it? If there's anything this old lady can do to help, I'll do it." Surprised by my sudden offer, Mary blinked her eyes rapidly. After thinking earnestly for a while, she confided in me. "It's a role of a career-driven woman who works hard. But I don't have any real work experience. I don't know what to do." As I hesitated about what to say in response to those words, Mary stood up from the bench. "Well, I guess it would still be troublesome. I'll think about it myself again," I said to Mary, who seemed apologetic. "Maybe I can be of help to you." I shared my own professional experience with Mary. It felt embarrassing, as if I were boasting about being an accomplished career-driven woman. However, Mary listened attentively to my story and took notes with a serious expression. "Thank you so much. It was very helpful, really," Mary said. "That's good to hear." Mary bowed politely to me and left, looking satisfied. I gazed at Mary's back as she grew distant. The daughter who used to fit in my arms, speaking in a childish voice, is now remarkably in person, striving towards her dreams. "You've grown up." I saw Mary off with teary eyes. I wanted to attend her upcoming stage performance, but considering the possibility of my ex-husband showing up, it would be difficult. If she were to find out that her estranged mother approached while hiding her true identity, she would surely feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to hurt Mary. Reluctantly, I decided to give up on watching the performance. The next date was the final day of the hearing. I headed to the facility with feigned hope. Would Mary be there? Perhaps it wouldn't be today, right after what happened yesterday. When I arrived at the facility, I gently knocked on my mother-in-law's room door, and I heard the footsteps. "Miss Abby." Mary opened the door for me. She had a happy expression on her face and said to me, "The character development seems to be going well. There are many parts in the stories that I received yesterday that I can empathize with and successfully incorporate into myself, even though I have no real work experience." "That's good to hear. I wonder if I, an old lady like me, could be of help." "Of course." Mary took out a piece of paper from her bag and handed it to me. It was a flyer for the theater performance. "Please come and see it," Mary said with a beaming smile. I felt tears welling up at the sight, and I lowered my head, fighting back the emotions. "Well then, I'll take off." Just as I turned my back to Mary and tried to open the door, my mother-in-law suddenly called my name. "Oh, isn't it Sarah?" My mother-in-law suddenly called my name. It wasn't her usual weak and feeble voice, but rather the lively voice of my mother-in-law from 20 years ago. "How are things going with my son? It must be tough with little Mary just being born." I remembered. Although my mother-in-law has dementia, the facility staff said that she occasionally remembers the past. However, that was supposed to be a few years ago. Seeing my surprised expression, my mother-in-law continued as if nothing had happened. "Oh, that's right. Sarah's excellent at her job, isn't she?" That's what my son said. "Mary, you're lucky to have such a wonderful mother." "Mother." My mother-in-law said it clearly to Mary. The room fell silent. My heart pounded intensely. I wanted to escape from this situation, close my eyes tightly, wishing for it. At that moment, I heard Mary's anxious voice. "Are you my mother?" I heard Mary's voice filled with anxiety. Suddenly, I felt a gentle impact on my back. When I turned around, Mary was hugging me tightly. "I wanted to see you, Mom," Mary said while tears streamed down her face. Mary had been asking her dad about the reasons why he divorced me and why custody was given to him and my mother-in-law instead of me. And my ex-husband said this. "Your mother was a wonderful mother. The divorce happened because I relied too much on her for child rearing, and I couldn't fully fulfill the role of a father." I was extremely surprised. I had always thought that my ex-husband hated me, which is why I thought there was no contact for visitation. Mary explained to me about that. "I've always wanted to see my mom, but maybe she wants to forget about me, so I couldn't even tell Dad that I wanted to see her." As I saw Mary crying with red eyes, my heart tightened strongly. "I've wanted to meet you too, Mary." I hugged Mary tightly. Then I conveyed to her the feelings I had and how I had thought of her all this time. The videos of Mary when she was little are still at home. I told her that I kept the photos we took right before her dad, and I separated on my desk and would look at them when I felt down. It seemed that Mary could sense the love I had for her, and she appeared to be reassured. My mother-in-law shared many childhood memories of Mary with us. There were many stories after the divorce that I didn't know and Mary, and I enjoyed listening to them. It was the happiest time we had spent in the past 20 years. However, after about an hour, that moment arrived. "Oh, nice to meet you. Who might you be?" My mother-in-law said that to me. Both Mary and I froze and couldn't say anything. "What's wrong?" As I looked at my smiling mother-in-law, I felt a deep sadness and, at the same time, a warm feeling welled up from the depths of my heart. Kate. Mary and I hugged my mother-in-law tightly. Although my mother-in-law never regained her memories, I expressed my gratitude to her repeatedly. I decided to go and watch Mary's performance on stage. On the day of the event, as I waited near the dressing room to greet Mary, I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband wearing a staff ID badge around his neck. "Long time no see." Yeah, my ex-husband seemed awkwardly avoidant. Although Mary had informed me about today's encounter, meeting face-to-face made both of us tense. I took a deep breath and spoke. "Thank you for raising Mary so well. It must have been tough." Upon hearing my words, my ex-husband quietly opened his mouth. "I'm sorry. I underestimated parenting. I couldn't share the struggles or study together. I was wrong." I was taken aback, but as I looked into my ex-husband's earnest gaze, a smile formed on my lips. "Thank you." The performance began. Following the lead, Mary appeared on stage as a career-driven woman named Emily. Emily was a young and talented female employee from Poor Gaze, and every movement conveyed her dedication to work and consideration for her superiors and younger colleagues. However, she was held back by a jealous colleague who didn't like her and surpassed by strong and resilient male colleagues. "You're a woman, so you don't have to be so ambitious," she recalled her boss's words and let out a deep sigh from under the covers. "After all, work belongs to men, right? It's more suitable for women to support them behind the scenes." She forced a smile and clenched her fist tightly, tears streaming down her face. Was all the effort I put in vain? Seeing Emily crying with frustration, I couldn't help but see myself in her, and tears swelled up in my eyes. I wasn't the only one. Women around my age were sniffing their noses and wiping their tears with handkerchiefs. They were deeply moved by Mary's performance. Afterward, Emily, played by Mary, stood up once again and grew into a person who put in multiple times more effort and gained the highest recognition within the company. The story then continued with the veteran actors playing the lead roles, featuring twists and turns in a profound performance leading to an emotional ending. As the curtains fell, the audience stood up and applauded enthusiastically. I too stood up and continued applauding until my hands hurt, over and over again. 1 week has passed since then. I was waiting for someone at a coffee shop. The doorbell rang, and as the door opened, the chair across from me was pulled back. "Sorry to keep you waiting, Mom. I frequently keep in touch with Mary, and on weekends we have tea like this." At that performance, Mary was recognized for her talent by the director of the theater company, and it was decided that she would continue to play the role of Emily. However, the daily rehearsals are tough, and there's no room for complacency. Recently, a new actress joined, and she's incredibly beautiful. Her acting skills are also amazing, and I might get surpassed by her in no time. Mary said with a giggle. "Don't worry. Before you get caught up, Mary, you'll improve even more, right?" I said, smiling. As I smiled, Mary nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, we laughed together. After not seeing each other for 20 years, I once spent a lot of time with my daughter for Marin. That way, I'll eventually come to believe that the days we were apart were necessary to regain happiness." Thank you for listening to our story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more content. Your support means the world to us.